In a previous video, I talked about cutting this part to this part out. And slowly but surely I've been removing the pieces. So I had a problem with my dash cluster, which is this jam here. I took it apart, checked all the solder points, all the bulbs, no problems. The actual issue was in this dimmer lamp switch. You see that? It's all burnt and crusty. I'm gonna take that out and replace it with some rocker switches. Basically everything that's here is gonna get removed and integrated into this area. I'm in a deep, deep mess of wires right now. Out of the original dash, I saved this housing so I can remount the fuse box in there. And I'll probably have that living somewhere under here, and basically the dash is going to stop right here next to the shifter, and then all of that's going to be shelves and stuff inside. The biggest problem that I'm having is that it's just tangled to all shit. Just installs over installs over installs and not well organized. And this is a nightmare if you can see it back in there. So that right there is what motivated me to do this in the first place, pull these wires, is that it's just so ugly. You know, if I'm on the road and I need to work on this thing, I need to know. I just need to be able to access stuff, and I just can't get to anything. Everything's on top of each other. It's all smushed. Well, when we last left the roof raised, we were still finishing off the transitions. So I'm going to show you some footage of how we got that done. So right now I'm working on the rear transition here. As you can see, I've put in all of these rivets. It's going smooth and it looks nice. I got a nice little curve here. When it's all done, I'll let you guys. All right, so last time we left, we were working on the outside of the bus. We pretty much finished it. So what I did here was I determined where the rivet holes for the rub rail are gonna go, and we drew out a chalk line. And under that, I added in structural rivets just to kind of hold it in place. Then the rub rail is going to go over top of this, and then we're going to rivet that in place. So all of these rivets will eventually be hidden. I also did some work here. You can see this is where the first rivet hole of the rub rail, once the rub rail's on there, that's where it's going to mount in. I did a little bit of work here to get this done, and also some on the other side. My NP1 exploded. Over here I've been building this finishing transition here. Up there I'm going to probably have to build a shim or something for the rivets to get into. So here's an interesting problem we ran into, which is that tubular steel actually leaves a pretty massive gap. So I might have to use bolts instead up here instead of rivets. And there's a couple spots where I would rather use bolts anyway. Same thing down here, so I'm working on that right now. I'm going to finish that off. And yeah, as you can see, millions and millions of rivets. So once that's done here, then I'm going to go back in and do the rub rail over top of it. Alright, so as you can see here, I'm working on the front transition. Standing up here on the hood. Do some curving here. I'll do a wide shot in a minute. So, finishing up this top of the curve, and then I'm going to go back to the middle and work my way out. I've been using a lot of wood to kind of create gaps and shims to create pressure for me. So this is the view from the inside. You can see I got a big cross beam here. I'm actually about to take all that out and put it on this side now to try and get that upper left corner. And then you can see where I'm laying the rivets up there. Well, can't go anywhere until I get these wires done. So this right here is the fuse box cluster, which is basically where all of the fuses live. I've been going through using this map as a guide, and I've been dismantling it, pulling each individual blade out, and so that I can untangle all of these wires back here. In the process of doing that, I'm labeling each wire so that when it comes time to put it back together, I have a way of orienting myself. The reason I needed to do this is in order to pull this out of the dash, it had to be detached. Labeling them as to what position they're going in, For example, this says air dryer 20 amp fuse. This one says instrument 5 amp, and then left. I got a whole bunch of blue LEDs that are going to go inside of this dash cluster, so that's going to shine real bright. And then same thing behind here, the shifter's going to light up. And I'll probably replace a bunch of the lighting around this. That's also where a lot of these switches are going to go. We're going to switch these switches for new components. Well, I'm up here on the roof. And I'm not filming very much because I'm terrified of falling off. Putting some butyl tape down. And then I'm going to patch this with that sheet of metal. Okay, I'm taking a break to film a little bit more. As you can see, I'm using these sheet metal screws that have a gasket built into them. And they're going in super easy. They're basically self-drilling, even though they don't have a self-drilling tip. They go right in like they're self-drilling. And it's really nice, actually much easier than rivets. So I've seen people actually do their entire builds with this. And yeah, I can say it's probably not a terrible idea. Now it's time for NP1. I made sure to label the dimmer switch points so that I could figure out how to reconnect them later. After lots of work, I was able to pull the wires through the dash cluster and out and behind, back through here. So now that they're free, I'm able to actually move about. The wires were still pretty tangled up, so I got a specialized tool that allows me to take apart the terminal points, which are the actual little plastic connectors at the end. Then I can fish the wires through and try to organize them in a better way. Okay, so I'm about to take this connector apart. And before I do that, I'm going to shoot a video of it for the purposes of identifying where these wires go. So as you can see, the pattern is pink, yellow, green, brown. And then I'm looking at it in the same direction. Make sure you don't confuse directions. Light blue, dark blue, light blue, red. So what I'll probably do is leave this light blue one here, there, so I don't get confused between the two light blues. And I'll disconnect everything else. Now in order to release this, I have to push these little blue tabs in, pulling these out, and then I gotta use my special tool to push from this side, there. Well, I've gotten it all loose now using my specialized tool. As you can see, I left two of the wires here. One is the blue for redundancy in the existing position, and both of these wires are actually not connected to anything anymore, and so it's completely free. So I can just go ahead and coil this up and stow it. Well, I know it doesn't look like much, but actually I've made a lot of progress, and I've gone through and labeled like crazy as I've been disconnecting and fishing the wires back and untangling. But some of it I was able to release from the inside of the engine area, but back in there are some relays that the wires are still anchored to. So I'm going to disconnect the relays and untangle and then reattach. That's my hope. Taking it apart. Taking shit apart, man, that's so stupid. No more stupid ass get electrocuted. Ooh, girl, I'm about to fry. One last time I'm gonna look you in your eyes. Baby, you shouldn't be so stupid. Taking shit apart to get electrocuted. Ooh. Alright, first one's out. I'm not dead. Ooh. I did it, I did it, I did it! And I'm not dead yet! And I'm not dead yet! I'm not dead yet! So I'm gonna talk to myself. Gross. Well, the entire wiring harness is out and free, so now I can spend some time completely untangling it before I reattach everything. I went through here and I patched up all of the holes around where the coolant lines used to run through, and then I'm gonna go ahead and dynamat. Alright, final bypass is complete. Right here, I was using this thing before and it was kind of ugly, so I ordered this beautiful U from MidwestBusParts.com, and so now my coolant can just go right back into the coolant system, and there's no coolant going around inside the body anymore. I used some of the leftover paint to paint the original box and also create a new face for it. Reuse some of the sheet metal from the roof and this hinge from the door over there to create like a little hatch so that we can run wires inside of that. And the this is the old fuse box mount, so I gotta cut some pieces out of this and then I'm gonna flush mount that. As you can see, we're still making progress. Now it's time to reattach these relays and all of the other components. And we're gonna go ahead and take this big bundle here and we're gonna snake it through the back to the fuse box. It's gonna go through there. Excuse me, goat, can you please leave? I'm trying to do something. This dang goat keeps bothering me. Go away, goat! Go away! Shoot! Shoot, goat! Shoot! Go! Get out of here! So I just reinstalled this piece here. And we did some complex bracing, door framing. Something over here. And I'm just installing the other piece. Should be done. Hey, can you say like and subscribe? Come on. Maybe.